Welcome. This is the summary of Turkish Economy Chapter 4, which is Sectoral Analysis 1, the agricultural sector. We start with some facts. The first one being agricultural production relies mainly on climate conditions. This is especially true for conventional production. And the second one is about income and price elasticities of demand. These are considerably lower for agricultural products. So great changes in income or prices have only a little effect on the demanded quantity for agricultural products. Third, agricultural goods production is geographically concentrated. This is true because one needs specific weather conditions for production of a specific agricultural product. Agricultural production is also bulky, which means that one simply cannot try to produce only one or only a couple of products. Thus, the agricultural production is bulky and it is done for a very high level of production. The law of diminishing returns is also applies to agricultural production, and agricultural production faces a strict diminishing returns, particularly due to the limited resources in land and capital. And there are mainly two types of agricultural producers, which are the first one being agribusinesses. These are larger producers, and they are actually firms operating in agricultural production, agricultural sector. And the second type of producer is the small producer, small farmers, which work and produce their goods individually. When we look at the trends for pulses in Turkey, we see an increasing trend for about all the pulses here in the figure 4.3, but the dominating goods in here are dry onions, barley, and wheat in terms of produced quantity. And in terms of fruits, we see that increasing trend also applies in fruits production in Turkey, and we also see that grapes, apricots, apples, and oranges are the dominators, and we see a strong and distinguished increasing trend in apples and oranges, which are shown in this blue line for apples and this orange line for apricots. And when we look at spices, we see a very sharp increase in cayenne pepper between 2002 and 2018 with a 657.9% increase. Yet we see a decrease in the production of aniseed and cumin between the same period, which is 2002 and 2018. When we look at tea, the production of tea, you see we capture a slight increase in yield value, which means that in Turkish agriculture, tea production is done more efficiently compared to 1960s, 1970s, or 1980s. Yet we also see a much stronger increasing trend in production of tea. So this is due to both the decisions of producers, the change in the decisions of the producers, and the increase in yields. This is due to both of them. In terms of vegetables, we see a very sharp distinguishing increase in the production of tomatoes, which is in here. We also see an increase in other vegetables production, but these are not as strong compared to tomatoes. For the livestock, we also have an increasing trend, especially after 2000s and 2010, which we see here. The headcount for cattle, sheep, and goats increased significantly after 2010, 2009. And the same is true also for marine and freshwater production. But the increase in here started after 1995 and became even more stronger, especially after 2002, 2003, and it became even more stronger after 2010, which is seen here. There are five main problems to be solved in Turkish agriculture. The first one being the small arable land per producer. This causes a smaller scale production, and this is just inefficient in terms of economics. The second problem to be tackled in Turkish agriculture is the insufficient capital investment. Insufficient capital means just lower KL ratio. So we have just lower levels of capital per labor. So this is also the reason for inadequate or insufficient productivity and in agricultural sector. The third one is insufficient generation of added value. This is due to the types of goods produced in this sector, and this is the reason of the weaker competitiveness in the sector compared to other sectors in the economy. The fourth one is the domestic price level and multinational competition. Due to the price levels in Turkish economy for food, for agricultural products, and due to the multinational competition, farmers in Turkey, both small and firm type, agribusiness type producers, show a strong dependence on government supports. The fifth problem to be tackled, and the last one, is the rapid depletion of natural resources. This translates into unsustainable production because when we deplete all our natural resources or make them unusable, we just don't get to produce more or produce as much as in the recent years. So this is a problem of unsustainable production, actually. Lastly, when we look at the share of agriculture in terms of employment, we see a decreasing line, a decreasing trend, both in terms of added value and employed people count as in percentage of total employment. We see that the added value started close to 40% of GDP in 1980 and ended up in about 1917 close to 5%. The same is true for employment in agriculture as a percentage of total employment. It started about 50% in 1990s, in the early 1990s, and ended up being about 20% in 2018, which is still maybe counted as high, but this is the recent value.